It
All
is
right.
the busy wellness for the busy women in business day. I am super excited to be here alongside my partner in crime, Miss Mary Massey, as we continue on our series all about wellness. Yes, our title does say wellness for the busy woman in business, but we know being what we do for a living, a lot of us think wellness is just fitness, just nutrition, but in actuality, wellness is a way of living. It is a mindset. It is the movement. It is your business, relationships, boundaries, so much more. So, for the next few weeks, Mary and I are being very intentional with this amazing room because we are on a quest to bring, in the name of wellness, the understanding, the education, and most importantly, get you excited to take action on your wellness plan. And I'm telling you
Mhm.
all, it starts in so many different areas than what we think it just is. But just to stay true to wellness, we did start off our first series started off with just the introduction of a diverse wellness. Our last week we talked about the having that positive attitude, that mindset 101, and also about toxic positivity and what it means for our mindset. Today we are going to be talking about nutrition basics, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm not all about eating kale chips for the rest of my life. We still want to be able to properly nourish our bodies, enjoy the food, and get excited to know that what we're putting into our system is not only filling us up, but it is building us up to even greater wellness, more energy, confidence, clean skin, and everything else in between. So, my name is Camille Jones, and yes, I'm the founder of We Got This Mind and Body, as well as the director of education and programs in the Mom Link. But again, it's not about me, it's about we. So let's get this party started. Gonna pass the mic over to Mary.
Hello, everybody. I'm here at home in New Jersey. Camille is in Canada. As we're talking now, wellness to me is so important, and it really is everything that we consume, everything that our eyes see, what we eat, what we listen to. Oh my goodness! And right now, I'm watching my dogs just wrestle, and they have the zoomies, and they're running all over the house. And normally, it's a source of joy, and it still is. I'm just watching. I'm waiting for one of them to yelp and see what happens, but to me, it's all about surrounding yourself with all the things that make us happy. I have my plants here. I have orchids everywhere. I'm very, very blessed to be able to live in a place where I have a nice skylight and it can really feed my plants what they need. And that always reminds me of what we need, because as we tend to our garden, as we tend to our house plants, we always have to be mindful too of whether or not they're only getting water or they're getting nutrients. And the same applies to us. So we have to understand that nutrition is something that is essential, just not just for living, but also for living well and for balancing hormones and for also keeping that healthy muscle and the fat, at bay. So my name is Mary Massey. I am a personal growth strategist and also a social media coach. And I am also the podcast host of Get Intentional with Mary and director of media for the Mom Link. So we have a wonderful conversation for you. Those of you who are watching, thank you for being here. Please go ahead and share this with someone. Normally, what we do is we try to share these events, but I know there's a lot of stuff going on Facebook and on LinkedIn. And a lot of the times these posts get hidden, people don't see them. So we want to make sure that you are interacting with us and that you are maybe forwarding this to somebody who may be a little bit unsure as to what to eat, because nutrition is a big topic that is important to tackle. And it's also one that intimidates a lot of people because they'll say, oh, we don't have time for this or that. So we're going to dive into all of the excuses, and we're also going to give you some very actionable tips. As far as I'm concerned, I've been a wellness coach for many years now. I have a nutrition background. I'm a nutritionist. I'm also a personal trainer, so I have a lot to share on the matter. And so does Camille. So please pop in your questions and let's get the conversation going.
Exactly. This is a great opportunity for you to ask those questions, those burning questions that you've always wanted to ask, but didn't know who to share it with, or maybe even felt a little intimidated. Let's just put it all on the table here. Just as Mary said, she just is waiting for one of her little pups to come and bark and come in and play around. Yes, we hear them. And just like I'm a busy mom of three, but right now I'm a busy mom of two plus being auntie to three more. So you may see a kid or two, but this is the whole point of this room, is to know that we could still get it done. We could still get it educated and learn. And most importantly, encourage yourselves, each other, to take action. Don't allow the distractions of our life say, oh no, we're too busy to be able to eat the way that we need to be to eat, to give us that energy, to give us everything that we need for our individual body. What I'm loving about this conversation, and I would love if Mary started it off, but what I wanted to say to the group is, first of all, if you're tuning in live, let's know where you're calling in from. Where are you watching in from? Let's put it into the comments. And if you're on the replay, put it in there too as well. I just like to see that. I just like to see some engagement, because this is an interactive room. And what I was going to say is, I enjoy this conversation because Mary, just as she said, she has years in her pocket when it comes to the nutrition side and really understanding how the foods work in your body. Now you're also getting the experience of mine, which is, 5 years and less of really understanding the nutrition. And what's really key and great about this is it proves to all of us that we can have lasting lifestyles from education and doing the work as Mary. And for me, it proves to you it's never too late to get started and get onto that train of a better, greater, nutritious lifestyle. So it's really great to see the two different perspectives, not even perspectives, but moments in life, because this is a great encouragement for us all to show that as long as we're standing and breathing, this is a time for us to really start taking a intentional act on our nutrition. So Mary, I'd love for you to start off with the first, tip, or what have you, and then I'll
Yeah,
your with it.
absolutely. So for me, I come from a background, and let's talk about the psychology of eating first, because we need to understand that a lot of us, and you too, Camille, we come from very cultural, ethnic backgrounds, right? Where it's all about the chubby cheeks and the thick thighs and all of that. For me personally, I was born in Peru, and to be skinny is a no-no. Like, you get bullied for being skinny. There they really celebrate the chubby cheeks and the heftiness. And a lot of the times, because that is celebrated, that means that as kids we end up overeating. There have been so many times when I was the last one. Actually, I'm usually still to this day the last one at the dinner table, at the lunch table, the last one to finish eating, because I eat very slow. I've always been that way. And they force you to finish your food. So whatever food they put on your plate, you got to eat, because there are starving children in the world. Okay. And it's your responsibility to eat for those starving children, because somehow they're getting the nutrition, even if you're overindulging. I never understood that, but I had to do what I had to do. And a lot of the times I would end up getting sick, like overeating and all of that. And fast forward to 2 years later, when I came to the US and then I became a parent, I never forced my kids to eat, to finish their food. They still to this day stop when they're full. I still carry that slight psychological, I don't know, baggage with me, where I have to be the one to sometimes finish what I put on my plate. If I put it on my plate, I have to finish it. So it took a long time for me to unlearn some of these patterns that I got from when I was a kid. And although it took a lot of work, it was also very insightful for me, because I still am kind of like, I was never the type of person to put on a lot of weight. I'm not like that. I've always been into fitness. Even in high school, I used to do in Peru, we have military instruction. It's mandatory. So because they prepare you to go into the military. So I was always very active with that. And I really did enjoy it. And I think it was also because of my upbringing that I saw fitness as therapy for me, as my drug of choice. Where other people were doing other things, I was into fitness, I was into running track and all of that. And that translated to my adulthood. And then once I started having kids, I learned very early on that some of the things that I had in my childhood were not necessarily good for them. Sugary drinks and things like that. So one thing I always say to my ladies is that when you have kids who are selective eaters, because we're not going to call them picky, we're going to call them selective, you want to make sure that you are the one in charge. You are the one who is stocking the cupboard, who's going to the store, who's doing all of these things. So you want to make sure that you are supplying those kids with what they need because it starts there. Now, let's talk about you. What are some of the habits that you need to unlearn? Are you the type who finishes the kids' food? Are you the type who eats on the run? Or maybe you're the type who waits way too long to eat? Maybe you caffeinate too early in the morning. The first thing you do is drink coffee, and that's a no no for your gut. So we don't realize sometimes that the things that we do can really aggravate our gut, and our gut is our second brain. And that's where we fight viruses. That's where we rev up that metabolism. We burn fat, we digest properly, we get our nutrients. And if our gut is not healthy, we're not going to get the nutrients that we need. So I would love to know, for those of you who are watching, like, what are some of the hangups that you have? What do you need to unlearn first in order to move forward? And what is your relationship with food? Going back to the psychology of eating, do you feel that you have a good relationship with food? Are you the type of person who eats with all the senses and really takes your time? Or are you a stress eater? Are you an emotional eater? Do you eat when you're happy? Do you eat when you're stressed? And here's another thing too, Camille, that I learned early on is to never reward my kids with sweets. Never. Okay. Oh, you did so good. You want a lollipop? Oh, you're upset. Here, have a bottle, or here, have a piece of cake, or here, let's have ice cream because now we're going through this emotional situation. And we see that a lot too. You're upset, you're depressed, you grab the ice cream right away, and then what are you doing? You're eating the sugar. And there's a reason why, and we're going to talk about that later. So, Camille.
Good old sugar and cravings, and what else it does to us. The biggest number one drug in the world, and it's legal. But as Mary said, we're going to get into it because to really understand sugar is to really make you even more intentional and more aware of the food that you're putting into your system. But Mary, what I love is I love the fact that you started off with your story with, and why I love that is that a lot of us don't realize that so many of our habits as adults were habits that were created from childhood.
Mhm.
So myself, I live in Canada, first generation born Canadian, but I'm from Trinidad and I'm in a new world, new country. Growing up, my mom saw us as different because we had the broad hips, the big bum. So I forever was on a diet. My mom's like, so I never grew up with juice. I never grew up like I was lucky if I got a Joe and Louis, all these things. And my mom would always make a comment, so much to the point where I started looking at all my friends and noticing that my body was different. So I used to think it was probably because of the food that I ate, because in the Caribbean, we eat very heavy food. So because of that, I started to avoid food and didn't have a good relationship with the food because I was so scared that my body shape, which has nothing to do with the food as much as it has to do with my culture and my DNA makeup too as well. I'm not fat, I'm not skinny, I'm shapely. But because of that, it did have, when you talk about that poor relationship with food, I 100% did. And what happened is I started to not value food. And when I didn't value food, I would eat crackers for dinner, popcorn for lunch, a
Mhm.
poutine for breakfast. I didn't know anything about fruits or vegetables, but I'll tell you one thing that made what, and the reason why I do what I do today is it wasn't until I changed my diet did I realize, oh, that's why I was having the depression and the anxiety. I had no idea the relationship of my gut to my mental health. I went through so much ups and downs mentally, and I didn't eat. I had the first form of anorexia. I would eat crackers, and again, when I started to make that transition of my food, I started to get the energy. I started to
Mhm.
look at myself differently. I didn't get as depressed as I used to, and that's when I said yes, there is greater than fitness, because I was working out, but I still wasn't eating and I still
Mhm.
wasn't feeling good. But once I changed my food and I changed it into a way where I enjoy it by getting the education behind what does that food mean for Camille's body? What does it do for Camille's body? Yes, there's some foods that are great for you. It doesn't work for Camille's body, and that's okay. We go to the other part. We and the way how you discover that is exactly what Mary was talking about, was through mindful eating, being intentional with your food. You can it Food is there to be enjoyed. It is there as a social gathering, but it's not there to be indulged, to eat that processed food. I was just listening on the radio today that processed food is the number is killing us. It is
Mhm.
killing us. And it's that fast, that Netflix, oh, it's quick to get stuff. But once you start getting that mindfulness, being intentional, and understanding what that food means for your body, the love that food gives, you can make that change. And it's exciting. So this is going to pass the mic over to you. But I love that you use that story, because so many of us have so much of this relationship with food because of
Mhm.
how we viewed it as children.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a that mindful eating is important. And the reason why we're talking about this background first is because it's important to have that foundation so that you know where you're starting from and where you need to go and where it is that you need to make changes. So now that we're understanding a little bit more about that, the habits that we have from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, understand also that the foods that we eat are either going to make us feel good or make us feel sluggish. And you know that, like, you know that you're going to eat something and all of a sudden you feel energetic, you're ready, you feel healthy, you feel vibrant. There are people that begin to change their eating habits and maybe they'll start with a green smoothie in the morning and they get so revitalized. They have that before they have their coffee. And they started to do that. And the transition is, of course, to eventually let go of the coffee because all of a sudden they feel vibrant. And what happens there is that from that burst of energy, you begin to move your body. And what happens when you move your body and you exercise? You feel good, you feel energized. And this is why a lot of people prefer to work out in the morning, ideally, because it's going to prep you for the rest of your day. It's going to give you all that energy and that focus that you need. And it's going to release those endorphins and that beautiful dopamine, that feel good hormone to allow you to live out the best day possible. So think about all of these things. And if you have, let's say, a donut and a coffee, you stop at Dunkin' Donuts. I see it all the time here. They go to the Starbucks and they get their 3 pumps of whatever with 5 pumps of that, and it's all sugar. Sugar. So if the first thing that you're feeding your body is sugar, guess what? Your body's going to continue to crave sugar throughout the day. And if it doesn't get the sugar, because sugar, as a matter of fact, will have the same chemical reaction in your brain as cocaine. That's why if you eat something sugary or you drink something sugary, you're going to crave more of that. You're not going to quench your thirst if you have a Pepsi or if you have a Coke. You're
Mary,
going
can
to
I
want
just say
more.
that one part here that you're just
Yep.
saying, sorry to say, but
Right.
everybody, just think of an example of a child, right? And you give them sugar. What happens 15 minutes after you've given that child sugar? So I love that you said that, because you have to be mindful of that, because it wires, like, you're so right. Sorry, I just have to put that part because it just,
Yeah. Yeah, it really does rewire your brain. And think about the effect that sugar has on a developing brain as children. And I've been judged a bunch of times for not having certain things at home. And my kids, Halloween, you should see my house Halloween. The candy stays there. Nobody eats it. Every once in a while, and even though my son is 11 now, he still comes over and asks if he can have this or if he can have that. He always asks. He never just goes into the bucket and grabs something. And during Halloween, we give away a lot of candy, of course, but whatever is left over just stays there. As a matter of fact, I think I'm the one that grabs the little Snickers, the little tiny, like the Snickers and Twix, those are my jam. So I'll grab 5 of each because I figure if I eat 5 little ones, then I'm not eating one big one, right? But I think like I'm the one who ends up eating the candy more than they do. And I keep it in the car. And as I'm driving, maybe I'll have a little one. That's enough for my 15-minute commute. But with them, they were never the type to go and crave it. Whereas other kids, you see it, their cupboards are stocked with all of these sugary things and sugary cereals and things like that. My son will ask for a protein shake. I mean, he'll ask for a vegan protein shake. I make it with milk. The powder is vegan, but he gets all the fiber and the carbs and the healthy fats and nutrients that he needs. His body is used to that. And whenever they go somewhere else or hang out with friends, then they can have whatever they want. They can go to 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee because I know that that's not their normal. And I know they're not going to be affected by that. So just going back to an adult and how you start your day, think about that. Like, what can you do instead? You should be starting your day, and this is something that you might want to write down: protein, fiber, fat. It doesn't matter how that comes in. An example could be a little bit of overnight oats or uh, a hard boiled egg and maybe a slice of whole grain toast or something with almond butter, some sort of healthy fat. And you can also add a little bit of coconut oil to your coffee, and you're getting your fat there. But I would say wait until you have water first in the morning, then eat a little something, and then have your coffee, because it really throws your gut off balance. And you don't realize it, but the effects can come to bite you later. So those are just some tips that I have for people when when they're rushing in the morning to really prep for the day before. And we can talk about meal prepping as well, and how it is that you can use some shortcuts so that you're not so frazzled and overwhelmed when you have a very busy lifestyle. Camille?
Love, love, love everything that you said there. Another little tip I could say from what Mary was saying is what I do with my clients is we do a food journal. Because a
Hmm.
lot of times when we are starting to get aware of our food, we actually don't even realize that we're eating the way that we're eating because of the habits that are become subconscious. So what I have my clients do, and I don't just, it's not just a one time, it's consistent because it gives them a painted picture of their eating habits, is a food journal. Write down, it's not even as much, I don't even, and I always started out this, don't try to make it for me. Be truthful on how you do your food. If you're having that coffee with that bagel first thing in the morning, write that down, and let's see the progress over the weeks of how you've changed these habits by being more aware of the food that you're putting it into you, the time that you're doing. And what I put in this food journal is I always tell them to write, how are you feeling?
Hmm.
Because a lot of the times the food that we're eating is associated to, and the cravings are associated to an emotion. And if we're not even aware of that, that's where the some people eat binge eating because you're stressed and you didn't even realize that you're binge eating because you're stressed. You thinking that you're hungry, but in actuality that's not the case. So having a clear picture of your current habits allows you to really see where you can adjust, readjust, and as well as be aware of your emotion on it. I do it all the time. I actually have to do it for my children as well. Because again, I'm not seasoned of 20, 30, whatever years in nutrition. I come from a Caribbean background where, again, my mom, when I was growing up, said I couldn't eat all of this, all that. But now grandma comes to my house every other day with a box of ridiculousness. And that was going on for such a long time, and then I had to put that halt. Obviously, I put those halts in, and how I had to do it because I didn't want to be that mean parent, because that's not what we're trying to paint. We're not trying to paint a picture of hating food to children or even ourselves, right? It's not about that. It's
Hmm.
more so understanding. So what I do with my children now is I explain to them the foods that they're eating. I explain to them why we're not eating these ones. And it's funny, my kids, as much they like candy, but they're like, we have a full bag of Halloween candy from last October still in our house too, because they understand sugar now. And now my daughter will be like, oh, look, Cameron, I think Cameron has sugar because look at him, he's off the Richter scale, or all these things. It's also about teaching children to be mindful and aware. It's not for them to say, oh, I hate it. No. When they have an understanding, they'll have a greater appreciation for the food that goes into their system. And yes, some of us, like myself, I didn't come out the gates with my children like that. I was just like, I started to realize I was doing a lot of, oh, my mom didn't give me this when I was little, so I'm going to give my kids that. That's what I was doing until I became mindful. And then I had to make my children become mindful of that too as well. And it's great. We make it into activities. Like, it's very important for us to have that awareness of the foods, and again that emotion that is attached to that feeling when you are eating. Because a lot of times, I'm telling you, a lot of the cravings that you're having is not for the food. It's because of that emotional situation. So
Hmm.
that was a one tip. So Mary had that tip of what to eat. I way how I call that is, I call that the like the what should be on your plate. I call that the complete in three. Easy way to think about it. The protein, fiber, fat. Protein, any types of meats, any type of beans. The proteins part. Fiber, you can get that in a low glycemic. I always say it wrong, so love me if you know what I mean. Please repeat. I
You
mean,
said it perfectly.
oh, yes. Woo, I'm moving on up in life. So low glycemic is any of your greeny leaves, vegetables. And the rule of thumb is anything that grows above ground, you can eat the bejeebas out of that. You can volume method that, right? So that is great for building up that natural carbs, and then is and fiber too as well. And then the fats. Oh my gosh, forget about sugar when you got avocados. Hello, you got. I do everything avocado. Everything
Yeah.
is flying, and plus, so avocado oil is the best oil to be heated at high temperatures.
Mhm.
Just a little, if you didn't know that.
Mhm.
But I'm loving this conversation, Mary. Throwing Mike back over. Anybody in the chat here, if you have any questions, what are some habits that you may have had growing up that you're now being aware of? So we'd love to have some interaction. Any questions? I see Crystal was talking about here, eating small deals like grazing. I used to do a grazing a lot too when I was younger, and it worked for me. But as
Mhm.
I got older, you got to be aware your body is always in transition.
Yeah.
So I used to graze all the time, and Camille was great. I was fit. I still ate well, but I don't know, somewhere around like 36 when I would graze.
Hormones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not 36 anymore, but at that time when I was 36, I was doing the same what I was doing when I was 26, but I wasn't feeling good. I was
Mhm.
getting my energy level went kaput. And again, it wasn't until I said I had to be mindful of my food and change that. Now I have to eat small meals, but in the right times with a
Mhm.
small snack, and I'm good. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
those resets are important as we age. There are
Mm,
things that we did pretty well with before, and then our metabolism begins to slow down. So we need to look at different ways to ramp it back up. And a big way to do that is exercising, of course.
yes.
So, because you need to fuel your body. Now, if you have all of these fat stores, then you need to eat a little bit differently. So, one thing for those of you, I would say, who are in your 40s and who are starting to gain a little weight around the midsection, because
Mm,
that's where a lot of the weight gets accumulated for women who are perimenopausal or sometimes in menopause, we have to begin to think about more low glycemic foods. So that means eating less carbs at night. You start off with a high protein, moderate carb, fiber day, breakfast and lunch. And then as the day tapers off, you eat less and less of those carbs and keep it to protein and fat. So what happens there is that you go into this fasting period from the time, of course, that you go to bed until the next time that you eat. You're fasting. So what happens there is that your metabolism will begin to change and you will begin to draw energy from the fat stores as opposed to the carb store,
yeah.
right? So it's different. So the more carbs you eat, the more energy you're going to extract from carbohydrates, and that's not going to serve you when you're trying to burn fat.
No.
So if you think about it that way, another thing too, as we age, is that those longer periods of fasting can be extremely beneficial for your organs, for your liver, for your gallbladder, for your gut, to give that gut a rest to really process everything, digest everything, so that you can introduce food again. Now, there are different ways of doing this. Of course, we have intermittent fasting and all the different intermittent fasting windows: 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours. You can also do a reset once a month. You
Mhm.
can do the reset by maybe just having bone broth and some leafy greens and healthier low sugar smoothies, and then just some protein throughout the day. So there are so many wonderful things that you can do. But again, think about it this way: whatever you decide to try it for 2 weeks and see how you feel, because a lot of us also have digestive issues and food sensitivities. And a great way to treat all of that is by doing an elimination diet. So, by
Mhm.
really focusing on the most important nutrients that you can have, and also taking into consideration how much you move. For me, I work out 7 days a week, sometimes 8 days a week.
Mhm.
Depending on the situation. Sometimes I have extra credit for maybe a day when I don't get to work out. So I have to be very mindful of that because I don't want to waste away and I want to continue to maintain healthy muscle. I'm 49 years old now. It's insane. I can't believe it. I have an injury now. I have to modify the way that I move a little bit. And I also have to modify the way that I eat. There was a time when intermittent fasting worked beautifully for me, and now there's a time when it doesn't. So I have to make sure that I eat when I get up, even if it's a protein shake, something to prime my system. So you have to think about your schedule as well. I had a client a while back where we were doing this whole eating plan and a reset and all of that. And her schedule was backwards. So she worked overnight. She was an EMT and she slept mostly during the day. So she was like, how do I do this if I'm supposed to eat at this time? Like, don't stress. You think about your day and how it's structured. Don't think about it as breakfast has to be between this time and that time. Breakfast is when you break your fast, when you start eating. So if you have a very busy schedule, structure your day that way and start from there and say, okay, this is when I can have my first meal. This is my breakfast, even if your breakfast is at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on what you're doing. But if you are eating less throughout the day, make sure that you're eating nutrient dense foods, that you're really loading your plate with nutritious ingredients that are going to serve you, and no fillers. So you will end up eating a bigger plate of food that are less calories, more likely, than a small plate here and there that is loaded with calories. So a sandwich here, a sandwich there, a donut here, like all of these things really, really count. That's why what Camille said is super important about journaling. So think about the last 3 days and what you ate, not just what you ate, but also what you drank. Did you drink coffee? Did you drink tea? Did you drink water, sodas, whatever? You have to write all of that down. Do you drink alcohol? If so, how often do you drink alcohol? Is it wine? Is it beer? Think about how you feel as well. So, nutrition is not just about, oh, let's eat the healthy salad now. No, it's about really understanding what you're putting into your mouth on a daily basis, hour by hour, if necessary, so that you have the best result in the most vibrant life.
Absolutely. And this is again, this is why I love doing these rooms with Mary, because we have like the experiences, but in diverse ways, but to also prove to all of you all, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey of wellness. It's just getting started and having that awareness, understanding that your body is going to continuously change. This is why it just makes me, it grinds my gears when I see these diets, these like lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Why it grinds my gears is it doesn't teach you any habits that are going to be lasting, because what happens on day 45? Or again, what happens 3 years from now when you go into menopause? Are we doing the same things that we did to lose that 30 pounds? We probably are not. But if we don't keep that awareness going all throughout our lives, we are going to be blaming the work life. We're going to be blaming the food that we're eating. We're going to be blaming everything else but the fact that we're not being aware of what we're actually putting into our body and understanding how it is affecting us. And the first time, every time I start to feel sluggish, the first thing I think about is, what did I eat? What was it that's going on in my system? Maybe I'm a little bit off, because a lot of times I'm just not digesting well.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you talked about the low glycemic, though that is absolutely huge, because not only is it great for, the natural fibers, it's really low carbs because you're still going to get a little bit of what you need, the energy, but it allows you to build up, to fill yourself up faster
Mm-hmm.
and more, where you're not going to get as much cravings because you have already nourished your body with great food. When we're saying this too, I'm not saying that you have to become a rabbit and only eat that. There's so many amazing ways. I'm Caribbean. There's no way. We need spice. We need flavor. We need a little ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
That's just me being Trinidadian. Everybody love me. But it's all about being creative and understanding your palate and seeing how you're feeling. And I love, Mary, that you talked about the fact that we can't just do it for a day or two. You have to be aware, understand, and do it for 2 weeks. Understand how that food is making you feel, because as we age, especially us women, and as Mary said, our stomach, our gut area, inflammation, our hormones go out of whack so much. Like I've seen so many people that work out all the time, have had these nice abs, and then they have the little that's starting to grow, and that just
Mm-hmm.
goes with our hormones too as well. And I want us to show, whether you're somebody like Mary that works out 7 to 25 days a week, there's no 25 days in a week, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
or like myself, who I will do a minimum of 3 or a maximum of 5 days a week of workout, it still matters what we put in our system the
Mm-hmm.
entire time. You have to be aware of that. And even when I do come off of my food, that makes me understand, okay, what else do I need to do in the gym too as well, or where do I need to ease off of? That even goes with, I'm going to say, this is a women's platform. When we are going through our monthly cycles, when I'm going through my monthly cycle, my nutrition completely changes. And back in the day, it used to change into everything sweet and salty. But you know what? That sweet and salty was also making me very bloaty. I would always get bloated and I still felt uncomfortable until
Mm-hmm.
I changed my diet, even during those times, even the way I move my body, my fitness. It goes hand in hand. And it does right now make a huge difference on my PMS and my cycle and how bloated I get. I don't even get bloated anymore. Actually, I still looking good. I'm
Yeah.
just, but I just wanted to bring that up. But I love that you talked about again going the back of the journaling and understanding what you're putting in your system and knowing that it doesn't have to be kale chips. It doesn't have to. I know, like I swear, Mary, Weight Watchers, from back in the 80s and 90s with their little TV space food has tainted a lot of us thinking, oh
Hmm.
no, a diet means that I'm going to have to eat this kind of food. No, there's no such thing as a diet because take off the tea, you die. It is about a lifestyle transition. It's
Right.
about understanding your body and enjoying the food, celebrating the food alongside celebrating what that food's doing for your beautiful, gorgeous, unique body. So I wanted to pass over the mic. So let's talk about, Mary, what are some other smart, easy ways that we can eat on the run? Especially because we're busy women in business.
Hmm.
The complete in three is nice and easy. I love that you talked about that because just think of a salad. You
Yeah.
all you eat those threes. That's your protein. You got your salad, and then you got a great dressing. Boom. But what are other tricks and things that you have done to help keep your nutrition at bay?
Yeah. So for me, supplementation is very important. We don't get enough food from the sources. It's just the plain truth. You're not going to get enough fruits and veggies and phytonutrients and all of that from your meals. If you're eating 3 meals a day, even if you were eating 6 meals a day, you're not going to get enough. So you have to look at where it is that you might be lacking and see how it is that you can supplement. Now, as far as that goes, snacking can be important. So think about prepping. This is where meal prepping comes in and preparing yourself properly, making sure you have the right containers. There's a long video that I have on Instagram actually, where I went through my whole entire meal prep process. It's a 20-minute video where I showed exactly what I do on a Saturday or on a Sunday, from using all of my different tools, the toaster oven, the air fryer, the Instapot, the oven, all of that, and how it is that you can leverage all of that to get your stuff done in 2 hours. And with us, it's always, for me, it's always about I'm a meat eater. I eat steak, I eat salmon, I eat chicken, so I usually have those three. But also packing the little snacks. So overnight oats are super super easy. Some shortcuts that you can have. I don't know out there, Camille and Ken, if you have Trader Joe's or any other types of stores like that where they pre-package those nuts and fruits for you, the dried fruit. So you could have a little bit of nuts and a little bit of dried fruit and some chocolate chips, is that if that's your jam, and that's a quick burst of energy. You get the nice sweetness there from the fruit. You get a little bit of that caffeine kick, a little bit of that caffeine kick from the chocolate, and then you get the protein and the fat also from the nuts. So think about that, things that you can keep with you. There are some really good protein bars out there also that are minimally processed. So the goal here is, like, we know that everything we eat has been processed in some way or another. Even the steak has been processed. But the trick here is to make sure that you read the labels, and the less ingredients in the on the label, the better. Another thing that you can do here too is go for protein powder. Camille and I use an amazing vegan protein powder that is available in chocolate and berry and also vanilla. So when I go and I know I'm going to have to teach a couple of classes and I'm going to get my workout in, I make sure that I take my protein shake with me so that I can drink that within an hour after my workout. Why an hour? Because if I just worked out, my body needs to replenish. Not necessarily because I'm hungry, but because I know that my body needs that. So that's another thing too, is like really understanding when it is that you feel the most sluggish, or when it is that you feel like you need the most energy, and what you can do for that. Another thing I have to say about that too, I was having a conversation with a client the other day, and she's been weight training with me, and now she's lifting heavy. So lifting heavy, of course, means more protein intake. And for somebody who's vegetarian, that can be very challenging. So imagine trying to come up with a meal plan for somebody who does not eat meat. You got to get very creative. So we have to count every gram of protein and carbs. And the reason why is because we have to be a little bit more disciplined with her. You don't have to be that disciplined, but here's the thing that I said to her is that if you are lifting heavy with me on a Tuesday and you went out Friday, you hung out with your friends on Saturday, you had a great meal at a restaurant on Sunday, and with each one of those encounters, you had some alcohol, guess what? Your body's going to suffer, because if you think about it this way, what you eat today is going to impact how you feel in a couple of days. So that's also very important to understand. And sometimes we don't learn these things until we study them or we have somebody telling us this and educating us. So think about that. So if you feel like you're sluggish already, start to think about what you can do now so that you can have a better. That's why they say think about what you can do now to have a better tomorrow. So how can you prep? How can you see where you have those pockets of time? Where can you create those shortcuts? What sort of meals are already available maybe at the store? Maybe get the rotisserie chicken, maybe you get the frozen seasoned fish, whatever it is, the frozen veggies, pop them into the air fryer. What can you do to get those shortcuts so that you don't have to spend hours in the kitchen meal prepping or cooking every single night? So thinking about those things, I think, are wonderful solutions to a problem that a lot of people have, and that is the problem of time. Even though we all have the same amount of time, but if you're going to sit down and watch 2 hours of Netflix, prioritize, right? So where are your priorities? What are your goals? And I know it's work. It's work to live a good life. Trust me, it takes work, but then you learn to appreciate it because you love the results that you're getting. And the result is a vibrant and fulfilled life where you feel good, you feel energetic, you are moving, and you don't have to depend on anybody to do things for you.
And you know what? Just to add on to that yes, it is work, the lifestyle. You know what's even more work? Getting sick
Hmm.
and going through that process, getting those treatments. Even I'll give an example. My husband battles, we don't say has, battles diabetes. And it has been a journey from medication to even fitness. But you know the thing that really changed for him, he's on the least amount of medication he's been on in the last 12 years that he's had. He's battled diabetes.
Hmm.
And what was the denominator that made that change? I said, dude, we are completely recycling everything that you eat. What I mean by that is we took away anything that was white because that also holds hidden sugars. And for him, and because of how it was digesting in his stomach, let's see how that works. I started adding more low glycemic meals, lots of that,
Hmm.
lots, and a lot more natural proteins. And for him, but for him again, we got to go on a person by person. With the actual meats, it was harder for him to digest. So we came up with different ways to give him his protein.
Yeah.
And of course, the proper supplements that he was lacking. We didn't even realize he was lacking it. And I'll tell you something. He has had his A1C for the last 6 months. So that's two in a row. Has been the best. The doctor said, "Wait, do you have I don't think you have diabetes anymore." I don't think it. Like the doctor was floored, and he was like, "Oh, maybe it was this medication. That was actually the medication that we stopped, and we changed it with food." And the doctor
Yeah.
was like, "Whatever you're doing," he gave a slow clap to my
Hmm.
husband because all the numbers on his A1C, and the only thing that we changed was his food.
Hmm.
And it was not like he was eating bad before. It just wasn't working for him. It wasn't managing with him. We had to find
Yeah.
different ways to give him those carbs. We had to
Hmm.
use exercise, and even there's certain exercises that we do with him. Like even him sitting in the sauna for a little bit longer than the average person helps out with his recovery for his muscles as
Hmm.
well as his digestion. But the key
Hmm.
to all of this is understanding that we're unique in our own bodies and our own stance, but we also have the education of understanding how food itself works for our bodies, the body itself. And then we use ourselves through journaling, our food journals, and through our mood to see how these foods are making us feel to transition to that. I am going to say one little caveat though. As you are transitioning into a better lifestyle eating habits, you are going to go through a little period of detoxing, even without you even realizing it. Even you could maybe try detoxing before, but there's going to be sometimes your body's going to have, especially if you had a high sugar diet before,
Hmm.
you're going to have that withdrawal feeling. You're going to have maybe the headaches, the little sluggish. As Mary said, you got to stick 2 to 3 weeks, if not even a month at it, because your body is recycling itself.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace and be aware of these transitions that are happening in your body. Just do
Hmm.
something about it. Medicine I mean, food is medicine, but food can also be very dangerous to us.
Hmm.
But through the education, getting, don't just think education is just for your business. This is why Mary and I do what we do. Wellness for the busy woman in business. We want to see you all excel in your business, the boss ladies that we are, doing it what we need to do. But let's also give ourselves that grace and that same energy, that same vibe is building into ourselves too. So we are winding down to our last little 10 minutes. I'm going to give a little bit of of what we're talking about next week, because again, we are going to be doing a lot this series on wellness for the busy women in business. We need everyone to understand that wellness is greater than just your what you think good life, right?
Hmm.
So much greater than that. It's great, but there's so much more. So next week we are going to be talking about fitness 101. What are the right exercises for your lifestyle? Because I do one type of exercise doesn't make it the only right way,
Hmm.
end all be all to how you should be doing it. We are going to be going through different various ways, and it's going to be very exciting because Mary is all about that strength training. She's amazing. Oh, amazing. I do a lot of modification training because a lot of the clients that I work with are just starting out in fitness, and they want to be excited without overkilling themselves right off the get bat. So it's going to be
Hmm.
great this conversation next week to have a mix of all the different levels of fitness, because so many of us get caught up thinking fitness is only this way and I should be doing only this because this person did that. We're going to talk about that in more detail. And Mary, just to recap what we talked about today, we talked about what type of nutrients we should be having. I'll let Mary recap that one. We talked about the food journal is writing down, being aware so that you can become more mindful and be intentional with your food. So write it down, whatever you're eating and the feeling, even on how you're feeling after you've eaten it, or even prior to your eating. Get into that feeling while you're mindful eating. And was more? Oh, be aware of your habits that you've had in the past. And I know we didn't say it, but drink the one thing you could start today, right here, right now. Drink water. Flush out your body. All right. Drink is what 2.7 to 3 liters a day. That's the first step. Okay. Then we're gonna get to the food. So Mary, just to hand over to you.
Yeah, definitely. Water intake is different for everybody too. There's actually a myth about water intake, Camille. You don't have to drink that much water. Every body is different, I guess. So you drink when you're thirsty, and you make sure that you are just looking at your pee. Okay, you got to look at your pee. So if it's dark, then you're dehydrated, and when you're dehydrated, it can really keep you from processing things the right way. It can constipate you. Your organs aren't working properly. So yeah, so there's that. I usually carry this with me everywhere I go. It's always, even before I go to bed, I drink water. Last night I was working until 3 o'clock in the morning, and you bet I was still drinking, okay, my water at that time. So as soon as I wake up, I also take a few sips of water to get things moving. Again, those habits, those things become a part of your lifestyle when you begin to implement them. And it's okay if you can't be consistent right away. It's fine. Nobody's born being consistent. But as long as you have that awareness, because that self awareness comes with everything in life, the way that you think and the way that you behave and the way that you eat, the way that you move and exercise as well. So I'm happy that we're going to be talking about fitness next week. I have a ton of great experience with that as well, not just with the heavy lifting, but trust me, Camille, when I tell you that I have had clients who have not been able to move or stand up straight, or have had knee surgeries and back surgeries, most recently neck surgery. So it takes a lot to be able to help somebody get from that space to the place where they can lift heavy and feel confident and strong. So it's a process, but without really having that desire to put yourself first, to prioritize your wellness, you're not going to get there. So if you're still watching, if you're still with us, think about all the things that we've said so far. I would love to put all of these videos in a YouTube series so that you can access them easily instead of having to go back through our profiles. Camille will post a lot more than I do on LinkedIn. But if you go to my Facebook, you'll see, or if you go to my LinkedIn, actually, you'll see that the videos will be easier to find because I don't have a lot of posts on there. So go back to the beginning, go back to when we started this series, and take it from there, and take it as a course, as an education for your wellness, something that's going to serve you and the people that you love, your friends, your family. And once we get into the whole fitness aspect of it, you're going to be ready to move, but we have to have the foundation first. And that is the mindfulness, the nutrition, the mindset, all of that. So I'm looking forward to that next conversation, Camille, and make sure that everybody's sharing this series. And please reach out with questions because you have two different points of view here, and they both work together. We talk a lot about supplementation as well. Ask us questions. What are we using? What do we recommend? If there's something that I know works, I'm going to recommend it to you. I'm not going to give you something that I haven't tried myself or that has not worked for my client. There's no such thing as a magic pill. However, you can still do things to improve and to get to that success a little bit faster while not, feeling overwhelmed and stressed about what you're eating all the time. So it's all about finding harmony and having a great relationship with food and not being restrictive. But first you have to get to that level. Okay. So, all right, Camille, that is it from me. Follow us
I just
here all
and I
over.
want to show
Yeah.
everyone we're having a little pool party right now with the kids. And look at this is what they're going to be
Mhm.
having. And I'm just gonna start it off. Make sure it's good. It matches with me anyways. But
Mhm.
we can also teach our children from young just through what we put
And,
out.
and just so we have some contrast, Camille, I actually have a tuna sandwich here that I was eating.
Mm.
So, yes, I eat real food.
So do I. And I
All
want the
right.
tuna sandwich.
So, you may not see me munching on the carrots, but, I eat real food and
Yes.
everything that I eat is super healthy and clean as well. But yeah, those carrots, yes, give those to the kids. Let them eat the carrots. You have the margaritas later.
Yes. Yes. And it is okay to have our here and there's too, because we are still living and enjoying life.
Mhm.
But it's again mindfulness, intention, and just being aware of even how you're feeling
Yeah.
also this process. Because if you want to get to that optimal confidence energy, yes, the working out is fantastic, the mindset wonderful, but it all goes hand in hand. Mindset, movement, and your metabolism with what you're putting into your digestion.
Yeah.
So until next week, we're gonna be coming back to you all live. I love that, Mary, that you got. Yes, you can see the full series on either one of our pages. Definitely get your pen and pad out. These are going to be even if one takeaway from each video is going to make changes in your lifestyle. The self-awareness right there. Just one takeaway from each one of them. I guarantee you, and I'm putting a stamp to that. Because not only from am I just here to speak, but I'm also here to learn from my partner too as well, and vice versa. We learn from each other. And I appreciate that. And we all do this collectively. We got this, right? So next week, fitness, all what
Yep.
that's great for your lifestyle. Make sure to share out our pages to your connects because we want everyone on these social platforms to excel in their business, in life, and then of course within themselves first. All right. So, Mary, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but if not, we shall see you
No,
on the flip side next
that
Tuesday.
is that. Thank you everybody for being here. Bye.
Bye.